not able to serve the people that are around you as to be an example or a pillar or a coach or a mentor or whatever, and giving them lessons of self-control, influence, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation, because you definitely need to be able to regulate your nervous system, how to get through hardship, how to love themselves better, how to be a leader, how to fight back, how to fight for justice or themselves and for their right to be where they want to be and occupy the space that they want to occupy in this world, then what are you doing? What are you doing? It teaches you a lot about how to be the man at the moment demands, whether it's at work or at home or with friends or with family or, just for yourself. How do you fight for yourself? How do you take care of yourself? How do you give yourself grace? Found it when I needed it. As being a newer father and being a husband every day kind of feels like day one. Trying to provide, work is cool, but I'm also building a business and I'm trying to build my own legacy, off the shoulders of my father and men like yourself, but off the strength of men that came before me and men that were great examples for me to be able to walk that walk and walk down that path with some guidance where maybe they didn't,
Welcome to the Warrior's Way Home podcast.
This is Edmund with Warrior's Way Home. We typically don't do lives on the channel, at least not on the Facebook page. But we're trying to change that some more. We haven't been able to, we haven't made time. I would say we haven't made time to really hop on and do lives like we used to. So, I'm down in my garage, getting ready to do some training. Got a competition coming up, and I just thought it would be a cool time to kind of reflect on a book that I spent the majority of last month reading. It's called The Man the Moment Demands by Jason Wilson. Sensei Jason Wilson. Great dude. If you haven't heard of him. I know he runs the Cave of Adullam, I believe it's called, out there in Michigan. Fellow Midwesterner, because, I'm from Ohio, so that's always cool. But, man, it's a really heavy book, really insightful book, really opened my mind on a couple of things. And it kind of, honestly, put words to something I had been feeling for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a husband, and business owner and friend and all that good stuff. But like, there's a lot of different roles that a man has to play in his life over time, and like everything kind of you end up playing multiple roles every day. You know what I'm saying? You got to play the father, the husband, the brother, the friend, the son, all these different things. I believe he had like 10 different examples of the type of roles that men have to play. And I just kind of wanted to give my reflections on the book because it was just so powerful, so shout out to him for sure. Thank you so much for writing it. He's written a couple of other books as well and just so impactful. I think I actually just heard, I saw online today that Jason Wilson has pneumonia. So definitely shout out to him. Glad that he's able to get the support that he needs healthcare wise, speedy recovery. Congrats to that king. But the book was cool because it kind of just put a name to something that I had been feeling for a long time, and having to play multiple roles throughout the day, or really just throughout life. Like there was a time where I didn't even think I would want to be a father or a husband, and now I got a now 20-month-old, been married for almost 5 years, and I've been with my lady for about 10 years total, almost 11 now. Been out here in Colorado for about 5, almost 6 years. So a lot changes, man. A lot changes in life, not only physically and time-wise, but like our mentality about why we do the things that we do. You know what I'm saying? We try to fill the roles that we try to fill. And some of the things that kind of was pointed out to me is that, like, as you are stepping into these new roles in life, like, there's not always a playbook. There's not always a script. And so with him writing that book, I think it was a way for him to like put all his thoughts down and be like, hey man, these are the roles that you are inevitably going to be playing in your life, just throughout your life. If you ever decide to get married, now you're a husband. If you ever decide to have kids, now you're a father. Or, You know, you got to be a brother to not only your siblings, but like your friends. You know what I'm saying? Like guys who you know, blood couldn't make you no thicker, or blood couldn't make you no closer kind of situations. You know, and yeah, man, it put a name to it as far as like how do you do those things, and I've been always been able to kind of navigate those pretty well, I think, but without putting a name to it or without having a system. Because like I had a dad. My dad was in my life, still in my life. You know, I actually had a real long conversation with him yesterday. I checked in with him before I put my son to bed, and we were just kind of talking about our history together. And like my dad had a business. Kind of the reason why me and Travis started Warriors Way Home for me, like personally, was that my dad had a nonprofit when I was a kid, and he taught kids tennis. He taught inner city kids how to play tennis, and he had it for about 10 years, I would say. Ended up shutting it down at one point, but I always remember going out to help him. We were talking about this. We always went out to go help him, like pick up the tennis balls or sign kids in or whatever, but like just be a part of the program, you know, and give to the community, which was the main thing. I saw it as him giving to the community even before I knew it was a business, honestly. And I think that's how he meant to run it. But he was talking about, and that's another thing, being of service to your community. I definitely feel like stood out in the book, but being a teacher or a leader or a mentor, that kind of stuff. And my dad was a mentor to a lot of kids. He helped at least, I would say, 10 kids get to college. You know what I'm saying? Like scholarships, like sports scholarships through tennis, and keeping them out the streets, and taking some of the kids that were in the worst areas from Dayton, Ohio. There's a area called the Bass that we were talking about. You know, and he was able to take kids from that area and bring them to a little bit of a safer area and teach them a sport, a skill, you know, keep them out of trouble and all that kind of stuff. And when I was a kid, I didn't understand it. You know, I just knew I was around a bunch of kids that, you know, had less than me, but got my dad's attention. You know what I'm saying? Like he really wanted to help them. I remember one time, part of the conversation we were having last night, is that he was like, you know, I remember you saying that, like, hey, these kids are dirty, like they're poor, you don't want to be around them and all that stuff. And then it was just like him sitting me down and being like, hey, I used to be one of these kids, you know what I'm saying? Didn't have a whole lot, you know, single parent household, all that good stuff. And he would always try to instill in the people that he was serving, like, hey, whenever you see my son or whenever you see him doing something that he ain't supposed to be doing or getting in trouble and all that kind of stuff, like, make sure you try to help him or steer him into the right direction. You know, basically look out for me. I never understood why he did that, you know, because I had him, you know what I mean? But not everybody had a man like my father, which, you know, I didn't always appreciate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still got a great dad. You know, he's a great grandfather. He's a great mentor to me still. He was my hero. My dad was my hero forever, you know. It actually annoys me sometimes how closely I followed in his footsteps because, like, you know, being in finance, playing certain sports, you know, doing martial arts, you know, just life in general, probably the way that I speak, you know, he was very, very impactful in my life, and I thank God for him. But we were talking about how he didn't always get to spend as much time with me because he was serving the community. And, you know, I thought it was important to let him know, like, what he did. I saw even if I didn't understand it as a kid, I still saw what he was doing, and it still left that much of an impact on me, to the point where, like, I started something like Warriors Way Home, you know, with Travis, and being able to give back to men in some shape, form, or fashion. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing that I take lightly. You know, we got over 1,100 subscribers on YouTube. If you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, please go do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have a lot of great guests that we interview on there, and had a lot of great conversations with men, not only in martial arts, but, you know, talking about business and finance, and, you know, making sure that you got your money right, because, like, no woman wants to be with a man that ain't got his money right. You know what I mean? But, you know, personal development, romance sometimes, but in relationships with women, or just relationships with friends and family and brothers and all that kind of stuff as well. But we talk about it a lot, we talk about it a lot there. But I wouldn't even have been in a place to talk about honorable masculinity or any type of masculinity if it wasn't for my father. Period. You know what I'm saying? He was a great example of what to do and what not to do at certain points. And I can accept that because he did the best that he could with what he had. And that's honestly like all you can ask of any man, is that he shows up, that he's present, that he is trying to be that warrior in the garden that we talk about, where it's like giving back to the community, sowing positive seeds in the soil that he finds himself in. Because not everybody is going to find rich soil around them. You know what I mean? Or what you consider rich soil. Because just like those kids that I was judging as a kid, you know what I'm saying? The kids that look just like me, I'm like judging them for whatever their situation was. They were just as capable of doing whatever I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, going to a private school and all that kind of stuff it still sucks. School is school, but it's, being able to appreciate what you have, that my dad was able to provide for me. And not everybody has that, not everybody has a mom or a dad that will be willing to not only sow into them, but sow into the people in their community, because they know that their child is going to have to live in that community if they stay there, and that they're sowing seeds to make that community better than where they found it for the children that they want to raise up where they're living, So that's important. And so even though we do this on YouTube and we're reaching, people in different states, our state, yes, but like people in different states and even across the water, across the pond, we've had people in India and the UK, especially the UK, Ireland, we've talked to people from all over the world, even just in the couple of years that we've been doing this, which is, truly grateful for them as well. But I wouldn't be in a place to do that without my dad, and I definitely see aspects of my father in Jason Wilson, you know what I'm saying, of the writer of the book, which is like, just being able to honor men like that choose to be beacons and beacons of light in places where it's dark. Ohio, where we're from, Michigan, where he's from, like those are rougher places sometimes. Depending on where you live, those are not the best places. And most cities, like every city has those spots, but it's like, where you grew up, about what's around you. What's going on in your neighborhoods and all that. And it's part of the reason why I think I'm going home. Like, I haven't been home in like 3 years. So just July, we're going back with me and my family, going back home to kind of see some family, some friends, attend a wedding, all that good stuff. But, being able to be the man that can step into his community and sow into the kids that don't have men to do that for them in the household, providing them with a safe haven and a place where they can go and maybe they get snacks there and learn a skill and get to make friends and, get some wisdom if they can take it, because kids don't want to listen to nothing these days. But any day, honestly, like kids don't want to listen because they also don't have people who are around them that are giving them something to listen to, and that's the main part. Like coming up, man, I maybe had my dad and my boxing coach, and maybe like a couple men here or there, but like there wasn't a lot of real good role models when I was coming up. Not a lot of solid dudes, not a lot of solid men that I could rely on. You know what I mean? Like, and that sucks. But at the same time, like, think about the men that you did or didn't have in your life too. So who's gonna be there to teach you what type of man you need to be in the moment that it's demanded of you? You know what I'm saying? Like, can you be a protector, a fighter, a provider, a husband, wife, brother? All these things. Like, if you don't know if nobody's there to teach you those things. So then you end up learning retroactively because you got people that are doing wrong and you see what wrong they're doing, and then you're trying to be the opposite of that. Travis has talked about that a great deal with his dad and stepdad. Like he saw the kind of men that they were and just realized that he didn't want to be that. But sometimes we have to be smart enough to take the lessons from the negativity and flip that into a positive and alchemize it, and then just like make a better life for ourselves. Which is not easy when you don't have a playbook. But I believe this book, I believe The Man the Moment Demands by Jason Wilson is that kind of book that you can use to be able to give yourself those missing pieces, you know? And it's important that we have those. You know, there was another book, Five Marks of a Man by Brian Tome, I want to say. I used to go to his church back in the day in Cincinnati. He had talked about that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like, what is it that makes a man? And that's not always a conversation that people are having. Let me get this thing out of here real quick. Oh, sorry. It's a little uncomfortable. But, you know, not everybody always has an example to go off of that is like, not even if it's not purely positive, like they don't have good examples to go off of. So then you end up believing that positive version of whatever it is isn't for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't exist. So coming from a family that didn't have a lot of people that were married in it, why would you think that marriage is the answer, is the key to any type of happiness? Or if all you know is baby mamas and baby daddy drama and all that type of stuff, or domestic abuse, or drug use, or alcoholism, or, you know, womanizing, men in your family being womanizers, all that, like, where is the good examples? Why would you think that there is any hope for you if you don't see it on a regular basis? You know? So then, and you're definitely not having them handing you books to give you more insight about those things either. You know? So that's why these books are important. You know, if you, like people say all the time, if you want to hide power from somebody, put it in a book. Because people don't read. Audiobooks are cool. Audible's cool. You know, word of mouth is cool. YouTube videos are cool, but there's nothing like sitting down. Honestly, there's nothing like sitting down with a good book and kind of picking the brain of somebody who has lived or experienced something that you haven't. You know? So it was really powerful because as a martial artist, as a fighter, there are a lot of things in there that I can relate to as well. That was the first chapter that he had as far as like the 10 roles, was like the fighter, you know, the protector, somebody who can get shit done. You know, like, you know, that was the whole reason I wanted to get into martial arts, because I felt weak. And that luckily turned into a lifelong journey even now. Like, you know, I think I started when I was 19, 20, now I'm 34. You know, and I'll always lose track of the time because I always feel like a beginner for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you can be really good with your stand-up game, but there's stuff you got to work on with your grappling and vice versa. Or you could be good with your hands, but not good at weapons. There's always a new thing that you need to discover, or a new skill that you can incorporate. And it doesn't even have to be martial arts, man. Like I said, my dad taught tennis, but he can teach you adversity, how to get through adversity, rather, through that sport, through tennis. You know, applying yourself, pressure, how to act under pressure, how to perform under pressure, which you have to do every day, whether you're going to your job, you're dealing with your family, dealing with your trauma. Like, you think you don't have to be a fighter dealing with your own trauma? Please. You know? So I think it's just important. It's important that we have these type of resources and have these type of men in our lives, like my dad and Jason Wilson. And, you know, maybe one day somebody will look at me and be like, yo, that was, you know, he was able to be the man the moment demands. But, you know, it takes time. It takes time to develop those skills, first of all. It takes time to actually become that person, because it's not easy. You know, you can have a dad in your life. My parents were separated when I was like 9, but, you know, still having my dad in my life didn't really make life easier. You still have to figure out a lot of this stuff on your own, unfortunately. But, you know, it is what it is. And you can only hope and pray that you have some type of guidance, whether it's in the YouTube videos where, you know, some people listen to like C.T. Fletcher, which was, you know, shout out to him, he's a GOAT as well. Some people like to listen to Mr. Rogers, like they're two different sides of the spectrum, but they're still providing some type of positivity to you in the way that you need it, you know? So, yeah, I think it's just important to realize, like, you're going to play a lot of different roles in your life as a man, period. And to be able to have some guidance on what is the right or wrong thing to do is invaluable. You know what I mean? As a fighter, You need to make sure that you are protecting the things that you hold valuable to you. As a husband, you need to make sure that you're supporting your wife and seeing to her needs and providing for the family. You know, as a father, you need to make sure that you're raising up this new child that is essentially a flower in a garden, and you're that warrior that's going to protect it and nurture it and cultivate it and speak life into it. You know, and then hopefully you get around other kids that can be like other flowers as well. You can make a bouquet that's beautiful. It's a gathering of beautiful, intelligent children that can be of use to their own generation, but not only that, but like to the world at large. Because why would you not want to leave? Why would you not want to leave this world a little bit better than how you found it? You know, so it takes cultivation though. Like every time we ask this question to all of our people that we interview, whether it's at the Feet of Masters series or just like our regular interviews, you know, like what does it mean to be a warrior in a garden to you? And ask yourself that. Or do you even feel like you're a warrior in a garden? Do you feel like you're a gardener in a war? You know what I mean? Do you feel like somebody who is able to cultivate nice things? Maybe it's a bit passive, you know, but when it comes time to that action, like you can't really provide any benefit to your team or to your group or to your tribe or whatever that it is, whatever that group is for you. You know, but are you able to add value to the people around you is the main thing. Can you fight for what you know is right? Can you be of use to your fellow man? And that's all it really means, being a warrior in a garden. Can you protect what needs protecting and get rid of that which is not needed in that garden? Those weeds, the rot, the sickness. Can you get rid of that in yourself first and foremost? That's the question. That's the real question that, you know, a lot of the books that I try to read really comes down to, like, do you know how to handle your own trauma? Can you ask those hard questions of yourself? Can you fight with yourself and win against yourself? You know, I'm not saying you got to be all positivity and light all the time, but like, what do you do with your own history, your own personal history? How does it make you a better person? Can you say that you walked out of the things that tried to destroy you, or gotten through the things that have tried to destroy you? Have you been able to be a better person on the other side of it, or are you bitter? Are you mad? Are you upset? Are you, oh, woe is me? You know, are you a victim to your own circumstances, or can you be somebody who shapes your own circumstances for the better and for the people around you? Because it's your environment. You know, like, everything is mental. Everything that happens to you, for you, and through you is mental. You know? So you got to get a hold of your mind. And that was another thing that I definitely took from the book, is like, being able to be the man that the moment demands means being able to walk through the fire not unscathed, but undefeated, if that makes sense. You're able to, like, you're going to be able to make it through it. You're going to be reborn on the other side of it, because every day you're a brand new person, honestly. If you really think about it, like, you're not the same person that you went to sleep when you wake up. Nor should you be. You should be a better version of yourself every time that you wake up. And you're not always going to feel that way. You know, you're going to be pissed off about whatever. You know, people are going to try to bug you, test you, get on your nerves. You're going to get on your own nerves sometimes with what you feel like is your inadequacies. You know, you're going to feel as if you're not good enough. You're going to feel as if you don't deserve what you've received in life. You're going to feel as if, you know, you can't make it on the other side. You're going to be tired. For real. You're going to be every man knows, like, when you say I'm tired, it's not really about the physicality. It's about the spirit. It's about your mind. It's about your emotions. It's about your vitality. You're drained every day. Life is draining you every day, whether you know it or not. And that's really how the world is set up. It's not trying to see you win, period. We all tear each other down one way or another. It's ugly. It's not how things should be. But at the end of the day, can you almost cleanse yourself enough to be able to deal with your trauma, get over it, and then be able to pass that lesson on down to somebody else? The same way how you would teach a jab or a kick, or how to serve in tennis, or kick a soccer ball, or whatever. Like, it's a skill. Being able to get over your own shit is a skill, y'all. Period. Like, you got to be able to free yourself from your own trauma. And it's hard. There's no one size fits all. Some people say meditation or yoga or getting your money up or finding the right woman or whatever, but it's like, nah, man, like, it's nothing outside of you. It's all inside of you. It's all in your heart. Like, how you feel and what you think about how you feel is the key, because then you have to act on that. Like, man, maybe your example is, oh, my girl left me and I'm heartbroken, but part of it was my fault, but I'm not taking accountability for that. Well, what do you think about how you're feeling about that? Maybe that's a bad example. I don't know. It's late. It's 10:46 here, which means it's actually past midnight on the East Coast, or on the Eastern Standard Time. So I'm rambling to myself at a little past midnight. But I think it's important for anybody who ever sees this. If anybody ever sees this, maybe I'll put it on the YouTube channel. We'll see. I really just wanted to kind of get that out. Being able to be the man that the moment demands. Not only just for others, but for yourself. It's important. Being able to be the man that can rise up every day, that can get up every day to be able to serve his people is the most important thing. Because this is another thing. Everybody uses like kings and queens as their titles these days and all that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a self-esteem thing. It's us. I think it's, especially black folk, I think it's us trying to get our self-esteem back for basically like trying to encourage each other. You know what I'm saying? Because really, you are the kings and queens of oneself, I think, is the main thing. Like, if you can control your thoughts, emotions, and actions, that's a kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Being able to have that heart and brain coherence, and then be able to physically carry out those actions, I think is the kingdom. You know what I mean? And that's a lot to take care of, because every person has to do that for themselves. But what is a king but just like the most important servant? A king, a slave or a servant has to serve the king, but the king has to serve the kingdom. I think that's one thing that people are kind of missing with that. It's like, yeah, you're a king and a queen, sure, but like, is your behavior that of a king or a queen? I'm not telling you how to rule your kingdom, but I'm just saying, like, make sure that your actions match the title that you're giving yourself. Is that if I say I'm a manager and my people and the people that I'm in charge of is running wild and losing me money and all that stuff, am I really a manager? So a king is just the most important servant, because he has to serve everybody else. And I feel like from reading 48 Laws of Power, or any Robert Greene's Mastery, you know what I'm saying, or the Book of Five Rings, or any other book that you've been able to touch, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by space on his name, but yeah, check out Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's a great book as well. But if you're not able to serve the people that are around you as to be an example or a pillar or a coach or a mentor or whatever, and giving them lessons of self-control, influence, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation, because you definitely need to be able to regulate your nervous system, how to get through hardship, how to love themselves better, how to be a leader, how to fight back, how to fight for justice or themselves, and for their right to be where they want to be and occupy the space that they want to occupy in this world, then what are you doing? What are you doing? So, yeah, man, I think I'll leave it there. But if you haven't been able to read the book, The Man the Moment Demands, I checked it out on Audible. That's how I was listening to it, and it's just a great book, man. It teaches you a lot about how to be the man that the moment demands, whether it's at work or at home or with friends or with family, or just for yourself. How do you fight for yourself? How do you take care of yourself? How do you give yourself grace? And I just want to thank Jason Wilson for making that book. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I think I found it at the right time. I found it when I needed it. As being a newer father and being a husband every day kind of feels like day one. Trying to provide. Work is cool, but I'm also building a business and I'm trying to build my own legacy. Off the shoulders of my father and men like yourself, if he ever listens to this, you know what I mean. But off the strength of men that came before me and men that were great examples for me to be able to walk that walk and walk down that path with some guidance where maybe they didn't, because my dad didn't have his dad in his life. And that sucks, because if my dad's dad was half the dad that he was for me, I probably would have been even further, or he would have been further, or maybe I would have got a chance to meet my grandfather, because I didn't get a chance. I never met my dad's dad, but having male role models in your life that became great role models because of what they didn't have, that's a tough road to walk. And I'm glad I got to benefit from his lessons, but there are things that even he couldn't teach me that I have to teach my son that I learned on my walk. And there's going to be things that I miss that my son is going to have to teach his son or daughter or whatever, and so down the line it goes. But, we just got to try to give the next generation and ourselves as much as we can, as much opportunity as we can, because there's always going to be a gap. There's always going to be something that we miss that we wish we would have passed on to them, and we just got to find out what that is. And hopefully just leave them with more information than we had when it was over. When the lights go out, and we just want to make sure that we leave this world better than how we found it. Be able to cultivate those around us, cultivate ourselves, and be that shade that we can kind of let other kids frolic, be able to sit under. You know what I mean? Because it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a garden in war. Check out the Warriors Way Home YouTube channel. We're definitely going to be going live more, probably earlier in the day. Or, I work and such, and I still got to do my training and whatnot. But yeah, I just thought it was important to kind of spread the message of this book. Sensei Jason Wilson, if you ever get a chance to listen to this, I just thank you for what you've done, not only for our community, but for men all over the world. And I hope you feel better if you're still sick. And yeah, appreciate it. Have a good night, y'all.